So we're going to go through some do's and don'ts for when you're sitting at your desk. Obviously a lot of us sit for a long period of time, and there's some habits that we can inadvertently get into. So one of the things to be mindful of is your posture, and be careful not to slouch in your desk, just as Charlotte is doing here. What that tends to do, it creates a lot of tension, as we've mentioned, up in the neck and certainly down in the bottom of the back. Be careful of not having the shoulders too rounded, because particularly up around the neck, and that creates a forward head posture, which again can create a lot of pressure to the back of the neck, can lead to things like neck pain and headaches in particular. Be careful of also resting your chin on your hand when you're concentrating and you're staring at the screen. It's, you probably don't think that you do that, but it's quite common for people to do this as well. Another one to be careful of is when you're sitting is with your legs. Have your legs flat on the floor and just be mindful not to have them crossed. Okay, it's again, it's one of those things that you may be doing and you don't even realise that you are. The other thing too is when you're sitting at your desk, you might be using your phone, and because your desk, there's not a lot of distance between you, and we get into that text neck position where you're staring at the phone, much like Charlotte is there, and you can see again just the posture and the tilt in the neck. And if you're holding that position for a long period of time, you'll get a lot of fatigue and in the muscles from the neck. And the other thing too is obviously the time that you sit, and we've mentioned that. Ideally, you'd like to move every 30 minutes or so. Don't sit for longer than 45. Get up and go and do something else that doesn't involve sitting at your computer. Get up and move around, and there's plenty of other tasks to get your body moving, get your heart rate up, change your metabolism, and activate your nerve system. Okay, so now one of the most important things is with sitting is how you sit, and considering that most of us are looking at one of these things, a computer, most of the day, it's very important how you position yourself to make sure that you're not putting extra stress on yourself that you don't need to. So if we start with the chair, you want to have the chair height, ideally so that your elbows are at about sort of 100 degrees, or the bend. So the bend's not quite 90 degrees, it's anywhere between sort of 90 and 100 degrees. Okay, and with your sitting posture, you don't have to be bolt upright. If anything, slightly reclined does help. All right, it's making sure that obviously your monitor is also is on a similar angle. So when you look at your keyboard, right, this keyboard here, you'll find is the keyboards now are becoming a lot more subtle. They're a lot smaller, which is actually helpful. But most of us, particularly if you're using a PC, you'll have a keyboard with an alphanumeric keypad on the side. Now be mindful of that, particularly because of the position of your mouse. So if you're using a mouse, you don't want to have your mouse too far away so that you have to reach for it, because that starts to put strain up onto the neck and particularly into the shoulder, and can result in arm pain. So you want to keep that mouse close to you. The same goes with the phone. And keeping in everything in front, and so that you're orientated towards it, so it's directly in front of you, so that you're not sitting there. And sometimes you see that people have a desk position where you're sitting and then the computer might be off to the side. Right? You've got the keyboard and you're looking off to the side, or the phone might be to the side. Keep everything in that I suppose that information or that area just in front of you, right? And so keep it into this region where you don't have to turn your body or turn your head too far to be able to use your phone or your mouse. Now with the monitor, you want the monitor so that you're looking at the monitor. You don't have to look up at the monitor or look down. It's just maybe that the monitor is slightly, maybe a couple of degrees above the top of the monitor is a couple of degrees above your eye line. And be careful for glare. That's one of the things that people don't often take into account. So in this situation, you've got the window is 90 degrees to the screen, so you're not getting a lot of glare. So having a window directly behind you, or light sources directly behind you, can cause your eye strain, because what you're finding is you're getting a lot of glare and reflection from the screens. And particularly with a lot of high-res screens these days, you do get a little bit more glare. You can use filters or ideally just alter the light sources so that you don't have that glare. Now with your hand position, what you want to make sure is, as Charlotte has here, is that the hands, the arm and the hand and the wrist are all in a straight line, so that you haven't got the wrists cocked, all right, so that the hands are up, right, or that you haven't got the hands too far down, so that you're causing strain into the forearms, or as most people have probably heard of, that creates RSI, repetitive strain injury. And this also applies to your feet. So making sure that your feet are flat and are on the ground, so that you're not on tippy toes, or that you have, even worse, you haven't got your feet just in the air. The other thing too is, in this case, Charlotte doesn't have arm rests. Ideally, if arm rests, it's best that you don't have them, but if you do, you want to make sure that your shoulders aren't hunched and that your elbow is just touching them or not touching them at all. Now, one of the other key things is you'll notice that we have a plant here. It's great to have some life. You know, we're often indoors in office buildings. Having a plant can actually reduce your stress levels, and it's great to have something to look after and just have that vital life within your office environment. Ideally, you should feel comfortable. That is the main thing. You should feel comfortable. You shouldn't feel like you're having to use a lot of energy, right, just to hold your position. And one of the key things is your most comfortable position is your next one. So it's okay to move around. Don't be static, right? That's one of the important things. So if you use these tips, it should certainly help to reduce the stress on you.
We've put together a really useful infographic for you called Healthy Hacks for Achy Backs. It contains our top 10 tips for how you can sit at a desk all day in a healthy way. You could print this out and put it on the wall at work so that your colleagues can benefit from this information too. And it can serve as a reminder to you of the things that you can be doing each day to make sure you're sitting at your desk in a healthy way.